Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Hello, everyone. I wanted to begin by speaking about a pattern as a human being I've experienced in this life that I have come to term callings towards the Existential System Administrator. This lecture is not about one person telling people what to do. This lecture is about a human being sharing what he has seen so far out of the human experience. And as a Muslim, I guess sci-fi writer, I consider that beyond where my consciousness is starting, there is the greatness of an authority. So as a Muslim, as a person on this planet who is convinced 100% of the presence of the Creator, the Existential System Administrator. You know, this lecture will, a part of it is me telling you the experience I had, and a part of it is me explaining to you the difference between being conscious of the system's administration that you are in. Okay? I began with the prayer, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. And when the episode is titled Callings Towards the Existential System Administrator, these are not callings of an individual like telling someone to do something. As if think life has, there is us as life forms, and then there is life. Now, the priorities of the collective position surpass the priority of the individual position. I am considering that existence is a system. When you look at a system, there are functions that system has. When I look at lesser life forms, I see that their function is to serve the higher life form that is us. I am in some sense giving this lecture positioned in a religious, in my own religious context, and my religion is Islam. And the reason it is Islam, I will explain. How someone who spoke about God for a decade, and when he got the experience, the silence became very meaningful. So who is speaking right now, and who are you listening to? You're listening to a human being that about a year ago found himself, after 30 laps around the sun, in a position in his life where I felt that I was trapped and I was imprisoned in the management of myself. What do I mean by that? My life took me to a point, a very low point, where the challenges and the problems that were in my life felt unsolvable based on my own capability. So imagine being like this soldier that has been training day and night, endless, as if you're being pulled towards a craft. I don't know if people have 100% experienced this, but it was as if I was training for something, mastering the sword of my attention, the precision of my attention. And then I reached a point where I realized there are problems beyond, again, the capability of me solving them. And I felt I wasn't in a physically imprisoned, but it was as if I was imprisoned in the probabilities that I could see. I reached a moment, and I have a knee problem on my left leg, right? So I reached a moment where, granted through certain unique events that took place, but I reached a moment where I'll never forget it. I was in Dubai, I was alone in this hotel. And I remember I go and stand on the bed. And I don't know how to explain it. This is not something pleasant to explain, but I was breaking down from the inside. So if you have had nights like these, it's where some angle or perception in your psyche is so intense in the soul's acknowledgement of it, that it's as if your character starts, it's like some people speak about a hollow earth, right? Well, guess what? We're a self in the earth. You experience a hollow self. So I experienced the hollowness of my own self-conviction and certainty of my own future. And I remember I reached a point where there were tears in my eyes, and it was an intense moment for me. It wasn't, granted, I would say it wasn't like a super easy moment, but I found myself in a moment where I was like, okay, I am created. I'm in a moment of creation. I do not know how this situation I'm in can solve itself. And that's when I let go of the strict expectation I had on what had to happen, or I was a failure to myself. And I remember I reached the moment where they say, let go, let God. And I was like, okay, God, I have my prayer. And I bowed with my prayer. And no joke, guys, in a period of 2 weeks to a month, events began happening that throughout the moment when I would hear the news, I would just stop. And in some sense, my whole soul of the moment would bow. Do you understand? This is what all those in the New Age spiritual community are missing out. When you think that being in the here and now is God, you miss out on being in the presence of God. As someone who's climbed this mountain and I've gone through this merry-go-round, let me tell you what it is. There is intensely ridiculous amount of subjective classification systems, but ultimately when you look at it, it is the presentation of beings. Now, as someone who believes in the soul, as someone who explained the soul for years to people from various angles, including polytheistic traditions, supernatural traditions, special traditions, I ran towards the spiritual mountain peak only to come to a conclusion that the only reaction or the only attitude response I had was that thank God it came earlier. You see, there is a difference between giving 10,000 talks for the betterment of mankind in an advanced civilization, alone on a earth, on a rock in the middle of nowhere, and then there's a difference of realizing that existence was never alone. That you thought you were, when there was nobody, when you were alone and lonely, that you were alone. You feared the technocracy, let's say that a technocratic surveillance state in the future. Little did you know, nobody is alone. And the difference is that now I am in the presence and the conscious acknowledgement that the Creator is witnessing creation. Do you understand? It's as if before I was giving the lectures, not realizing the grand audience member that was in the room. The difference between those, the path of God and the path of the worldly, that's pretty much it, guys. Right? The crossroads are, you're either going the path of worldly activity, worldly leisure, worldly desire, you desire this world, or you're going the path that you desire something beyond this. If you desire something beyond this, this means that the soul has to see beyond its own mind, which means that it has to submit its mind. However, if you submit your own mind to yourself, you get another self. You submit your mind to that which is beyond self. The Creator is defined as that which is not created. Do you understand? They said, do not dabble with powers you don't understand. There never was a choice. The power beyond our understanding was what we were standing under the whole time. It means that the modern, and not just the modern, the upcoming advanced humanity will require to notice that billions of our ancestors lived in a specific way just so you can realize that their concept of being alone in a world that had a beginning never made sense. This is not that you have to just accept the shape of an idea. Somebody's telling you a story and that's it. That's not the case, folks. Let me tell you what it is. At least how one human being has experienced the calling towards God. It was an incredible sacrifice of future self-expectation. It was a nullification. It was as if, like, you know how there was that Mortal Kombat game where suddenly, like, that character in that fatality scene kind of, like, you know, pulled out, like, the enemy's digital pixel heart, right? I experienced the moment in what I would call coming into contact with the divine, but not the divine, like as if out of no choice. Do you understand? I reached a point where I realized the ultimate limitation of my worldly life. My worldly life. There was this poet that said there is a secret freedom from a crevice you can barely see. That poet just forgot to mention that the reason you can barely see that crevice is because you are the crevice. Imagine you had to let go of what you wanted for the greatest outcome to happen. Could you do that? That is the intensity of being a religious individual. That means if your whole life you thought you were the main event, you realize you are not the main event. Do you know what that means? That means, no joke, guys, no cap, 2000, since 1991, as a human being, the processing system I was governing under was like, what do I do with this? What do I do with this thing that I am? And it was constant worship of self because I wanted to see my own ability. But imagine that you have attempted something 1,000 times, even more, and you're wondering why. Why doesn't this new key go into the lock? And after 1,000 keys, you realize that this is not one of those doors that opens for you. When you realize that, you come to a moment of submission. The submission of self is actually the entrance into the real world. So what does this submission of self mean? Does this mean that you accept that you are a slave of God? It means that shift the context. The greatest being beyond being, the greatest power, the greatest force. Imagine right now your mind try to fathom the most advanced, the greatest being, and you will realize the greatest power beyond being is beyond being. Do you understand? So what this means is that the existential system administrator, the singular, the one and only true power, has led a way back to itself. But the way to the power, to the original power of the realm, has to come with the sacrifice of the power you want for self. Do you know what that means? That means, imagine there's this kid in a room, he's about to make a decision, he suddenly sees his elders are there. So it is not up to your choice. What Mr. Within is saying is, dear human species, whether you like it or not, we find ourselves in a system with a great system administrator. This system administrator cannot be judged by the human, because that which cannot be that is not created, that created creation is a superiority. So initially it would be as if I mean I am not like a general of humanity, but if I was to write a novel where I was a general of humanity, what my initial the strategic response would be something in those lines. Okay, first thing every human being has to understand, humanity is not alone. The creator of the creation is here. That means we are artwork that is still being drawn, or it has been declared already. For a being beyond creation, time is not an issue, but for the being inside creation, time is the only issue, it seems. So dear humanity, the only difference that comes through a framework of the creator is that the drift is not the great drift. What I mean by the drift is an idea of the passage of, it's like an attention that watches time pass, but it is itself not in time. The callings towards the existential system administrator simply means that there is, think of it this way, an example which is just an example, don't take it too seriously, but as an example, imagine a Discord server. Okay? And in a Discord server, there's the administrator that created the server, and then the administrator declares moderators from those who were members. And so long-time members tend to become moderators. And then new members come. And all both members and the moderators, they are at the mercy of the system administrator. This is the reality. I've had the privilege of conducting groups both successfully and unsuccessfully. You see, the creator it means the system administrator knows. Every post the member and the moderators make, the system administrator gets notified. Now, the advice that religion, monotheism gives, and the advice that the way a singularian lives their life, is simply upon just through the acknowledgement that yes, there is a system administrator. The members are allowed at any moment to contact the system administrator. The members can tell the moderators their problem. They can also get help from the moderators. But the original help, the true power, the real power, that means the era of magic has ended and the era of acknowledging the true original power of the realm has begun. Anybody who's playing games, I mean, no offense, I understand you're a being that is manifested for certain behaviorology, but aside, it means that human beings don't have to just build an advanced civilization They have to build this advanced civilization in the presence of the most advanced. That means everything is under the decree of the most advanced. The ability of me even being able to talk about this idea, whether it will happen or not, it is all in the authorization of the system administrator. So the only difference is from, let's say, an atheist and a theist is, and the real one, is simply this. The atheist gets to only see their self. They get to see a mind that projects themselves. But the theist is acknowledging the superiority of intelligence, not being limited to the brain, but being like our signs are in the world. You know, I remember having this moment where I asked for, guidance from God to give me signs. And I remember I prayed, and then I opened the Holy Book. And when I opened the Holy Book, there was a passage, I don't remember it verbatim, forgive me, but what it was, was that it was saying, you are looking for signs, but the God has given all the signs. It's as if the signs are here, you don't see it. Advancement is here. We just did an acknowledgement because we were too busy, in the cultural construct of a glorified self, not realizing why is love so important? Why? Because it's more than what a mind can achieve alone. The drift is a suggestion for those human beings who per se have a mind like mine, that you can visually see. So for me, after some point, I don't know what year it was, but after some point, my mind could fast forward and rewind my memories. Not just my memories, just my inner sight. I could do that. In the presence of the Almighty. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. One human being requests forgiveness of the human species that is learning to be better. What I find the human being is being, the era we're being pushed to is an era of mastery. Right now we're still in a stumbling era. It's magnificent in its own way. But right now, we don't treat human beings as secret treasures of the divine will. That means there was a time where my mind would get an impression of someone, think that's them, and react. But I will tell you, now my mind sees every human being, every soul, as if a genius part of the Creator's master plan. The system administrator is so advanced, so beyond us, that there is no longer a competition of the greater self. Religion has pointed to for our attention to pilot towards that which is beyond form. Why? Because you would worship it. The prophets were such advanced beings that I get emotional thinking about it. The greatest advancement is God. Everything started from a position and everything will return to that position. It's another way of saying if you're living for yourself, do whatever you want, tends to lead to self-destruction. If you live for others, you become bound by others. But if you live for that which is beyond the dunya, beyond the world, do you understand? Are you capable as a being having an honor for that which is beyond all that is in form, all that is worldly? Do you understand? Like I'm right now using information, kind of like shaking information in front of you to be like, does this person listening notice that it's not the information that's the point? We are living for the greatness of being. Who can deny this? Deep down, we yearn for it. The human being yearns to be in the greatest position because the mind can serve. The body is here to survive, pain, pleasure game. But the mind is, okay, I have access. What can I do with my access? And so if you look at the drift is just a recap of the whole event. The drift of the lifetime. Like the drift of my lifetime has been like how I've been seated in a kind of daily active, like there's an intelligence interaction level. Like when I am with people that there's an intelligence interaction level, it tends to become limited. When I'm alone, there's an intelligence interaction level. When I come into the acknowledgement that I have never been alone, that I have been watched by the greatest force, by the greatest power, the Creator had some incredible intent to create. And what do we find ourselves? Every person making money today, you're making it from the act of creation. You're creating something. And effort is just how your attention goes to creating. You are not God. And it's not that everybody is God. That's not the case. It's just that the artwork has an opportunity to appreciate how it's being drawn. That means mastery, I would say, is more about appreciating how life can be, more than what it has, like what it couldn't be. You know, when I was younger, in my mind, I had an expectation of myself that I would have an army of advanced beings and I would be building an advanced civilization. But little did I know that I am no commanding officer here. That the greatest commanding officer, the command, is the original truth. It's the living presence. So connect to the system, to the existential system administrator the moment you wake up and just see what happens in the day. It's as simple as waking up and just, like when a person bows in prayer, you are bowing. Like back in the day, people bowed to kings. Okay, kings at a level of might. Now imagine you're bowing beyond, to beyond worldly authority. There is an incredible feeling there. That not just that you're not alone, but look at the caliber of what you are in the presence of. Because if reality was a simulation, then the simulated being would be like, man, at least let me experience the greatest simulation. The greatest simulation is not a simulation. It's the experience of reality. So, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. No person is important enough. No thing, even the whole world is not as important as the creator, the author, original. Do you understand? That means, let's say like you went to, in the future, people go into the store and the store owner's like, yo, kiddo, what kind of world you want? Kid, there's so many worlds you can buy. And the kid's like, Mom, can I have a world? Can I buy this world? You know, and the mother's like, son, you bought a world previously. You didn't, live in it, so I don't know, right? And the kid's like, please, mother, please. And the mother's like, all right. And the kid's like, please. And the mother's like, all right. And the shop owner's like, cha-ching. Even though money wouldn't exist as an idea back there, so you'd probably get existential service points rather than actually getting money. It's all about creating tier systems and ranking systems, and this requires great calibrated minds. So it would be pretty much like video gamers and like chess. Imagine chess masters and advanced video gamers, right? Or athletes suddenly reproduced. It's like it would be it's weird. It's like my mind somehow can perceive and get a sense of what kind of children will be born in the future, even though there's no way of me knowing it. But I can feel that pretty much the way life works, it gathers the attention and then creates a scenario, and then those who move first get power positions in the hierarchy, and then the hierarchy creates a world, and it's honestly just like passing down a torch. We're passing down the world that worked for us to the next generation. Whether you like it or not, everybody is learning from everybody all the time, really. The other day, I was staring at a bird on a branch just for like 10 minutes. And do you know what I learned? I learned that like creatures just want to fit in. That's it. That means that's why the world's being torn between tradition and modernity, and we're not realizing just, there's something, it's like we can use both. We need to create the opportunity for human beings to be able to, God willingly, experience an advanced life, right? That means an advanced life would be, in some sense, serving the most advanced world under the most advanced jurisdiction. You see, people have no problem acknowledging laws, right? I don't get it. Like, law is an abstract idea that tames the behavior of the Homo sapien, right? Of the human being. Yet it's not real. Like, it's not physical, right? But it's treated as if it's physical. You break the law, you get the real consequence. So we're living in a world where the abstract has real consequence, even though the abstract may not be treated as real. I think that's an incredible explanation. I don't know what the viewers would think, but I think that was an incredible explanation. So everybody's treating abstract as real. You know, if you pronounce somebody's name wrong, they get offended. It's like, what's getting offended? The abstract idea of themselves is getting offended by the abstract way another person saw their own abstract idea. It's like, what is this show and tell of abstraction? Oh my God, that person's got incredible personality. It's like, nice. It's like visual storytelling is pretty much personality, really, right? What it is how the energy moves. That means if you look at enough human beings, you know, from a coffee shop window, you out like just walking in this outside, you get enough sense of like, look at how many ways that beings behave. And none of them truly goes on the journey, on the rabbit hole of what does it mean to be alive. We're just like, okay, what's the best meaning in my proximity, in my awareness? I'm walking towards that. So I feel just like how the pilots in the anime Evangelion felt when they stepped into those giant robots, right? Or any show or a narrative, fictitious narrative where people just sat into a giant robot or sat into an advanced spaceship. That's the feeling I have when I acknowledge the existential system administrator. It's as if they say the man of faith, God has their back, right? So what that means is just like the person inside an advanced giant robot, they trust the system. They have faith in the result. That's what you get from an acknowledgement of an authority. So imagine right now you're someone who's in the military and there's a higher rank official. You're bound to the freedom given by that higher rank. Now, the only difference is that culture is saying there's no ranking system here, guys. Just do whatever you want. But on the other end, holy shit, so many different ranking systems. From man-made to that which was beyond the man. That means man-made systems, law. God-made systems, divine law. Which means the simulation dissolves in the presence of truth. So what are your options? Previously in the lectures, I would say advanced communication, and then humanity would advance. That was my strategy. But now the game's changed. Now the systems, my view of the systems changed. And now the most advanced communication is communicating with the most advanced, which is the creator. And this is what makes the drift of how the soul saw what happened to its mind and body, to its body the whole time. Do you understand? The drift is the suggestion of that which is per se not a memory, because the soul doesn't remember. The soul knows. But the mind remembers because there's a body's being considered in time. Thank you for listening. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. As someone who spoke about advanced communication and advanced communicators, you know, little did I realize it's not just an ability to see everything from an aerial view. It is an ability to realize where the governance of the sky is coming from, right? It's as if it's not just a matter of light entering your eyes and you have an opportunity to be a character in your own limited story. You are already inside you know, a non-characters limitless story. Yeah, it's not even, it's a story beyond our fathoming. Through the religious framework, there is ranking systems. That means right now I'm a human being. I am a human soul. I have a creator. My soul is not God, but it was forged by God. I have an incredible respect for my author. And it is in acknowledging the author that I see that the author is saying, you want an advanced life, O soul. But this advanced life seems to be possible if you acknowledge how advanced the system is and how advanced the system creator is, the system administrator is. That means to me, like right now, there's people who they have no clue. They think they're just in a carnival of manifestation, and then there are those who are like, okay, no. There's this carnival. Somebody set it up, right? So some force is at work here. The original connection to the causal connection to the effect has gone nowhere because the cause is becoming the effect all the time, right? So it's as if the causal force and valve never ended or closed. You know, through the advanced intelligent interaction levels of acknowledging the ultimate, acknowledging that you're in the presence of the ultimate, and the ultimate is not a self to worship, it's not others to worship, it is not even the world to worship, and it is not even deities to worship. Like if for example, right now my perspective honestly is that someone who is a polytheist that is praying to some form of God, they are actually communicating to a moderator, and the original is actually beyond the world, so the worldly cannot define it, right? This doesn't mean revelation is not true, because it's like we can't go up, but the up can anytime come down, which is another way of saying, even in Islam, there is a saying that God decides to whom he shares what he shares, which is an incredible idea. That means, hey, you want truth? Update your character and have faith. Have faith that this system you're in has an administrator. Now, the only difference is you acknowledge that it's here, or you acknowledge it is not. And it's surreal when you acknowledge God. Why is it surreal? Because the unknown is no longer just your responsibility. That means it's as if being like, no way, the world had an owner that was beyond the world. How incredible. So if before an extraterrestrial, hypothetically, I would create these scenarios where I would say an extraterrestrial landed down on Earth, and this extraterrestrial asked me, let's say I was walking in a park, you know, walking my invisible cat with a leash, or walking my robot cat. I don't know. I would tell that higher life form before. If people ask if that life form came to me before, I would say we're these creatures after a long time, innovation happened. Our potential is greater than our mistakes. All of that, just the story of body, mind, and how far technologies has come and integrations even. But now it's different. Now I say we are in this world where it's kind of like a game, and the game, those who I find are closer of course this is everything God knows, I don't know, but I'm just saying, in my opinion, honest opinion, those who acknowledge God in the room are closer, because the truth is not like some image, some painting in a vault that you're gonna open and be like, oh my God, it looked like this. It's not that. It's beyond access. This is why the ego is adorable to those who've noticed beyond it. This is where there are those living currently on planet Earth that when something happens, they watch. But they don't watch as just what happened to myself. They don't just watch what happened to others. They don't just watch what happened to the world. They're like, oh my God, how did this all happen in the presence? So the most incredible thing, and something that the soul and God have in common, a blessed opportunity, is that we are both watching life happen. That is how you connect to the ultimate connection. I am speaking to you right now as if there is a truth I have bowed to multiple times. Not a truth that has a personality. A truth that tells me what to do, but a truth that does not have a personality. It surpasses the worldly. And I don't know if I can even be friends, with an, like, it's not that I can be, it's just that, I think by now, many human beings have experienced, like, the Prophet, peace be upon him, had said that the soul, that there is a world, I forget the exact term, arwah, there is a world before the souls are born in the wombs, in the worldly womb, before the souls are born there, they are in a place, and that this is the Islamic view, and in that place there is a ranking system where they are as souls, right? And it's as if souls of the same rank notice each other. So if I'm this person and I go somewhere and a group of people are suddenly very rude and they degrade me, they reduce me, it's as if I am not among my ranks. It just means the soul is being tested by others. In Islam, there is the beautiful phraseology, the idea that God Almighty, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the ultimate guidance. It's not a podcast or anything like that. The cool thing is that you're a soul and I'm a soul, and we stand in the presence of our greatest the great admiral, the great emperor. That means it's like my mind playfully sometimes sees myself like as a general enlisted at the presence of the emperor. The emperor surpasses me, and I understand that, and I have accepted it. It wasn't easy, but somehow I reached the point where I was like, all right, my name is Amin. So I was like, all right, Amin, you've lived as Amin. You've lived for Amin. You've lived for yourself. You tried it out. Now let's see what the system administrator can do. Because in the Holy Book, there is an idea that says you can try to get what you imagined, but if you have faith in the Almighty will bring you what you could have never imagined. That means not worldly pleasure, not a joy of a grasping attainability. I know how it is, guys. I'm a biological animal just like you right now. I know that feeling of temptation. I know that feeling. I am in the trenches of my temptations. I know that feeling of lighting a cigarette. I know that feeling of noticing you're in a room and there's the scarcity of resources means there's limited value propositions. So it's either power, strength, or speed. And so it's as if in a race, it's as if you have no choice. It's a one-man show. Do you see? So there is an instantaneity. I've seen, to me, you know how they would martial artists, they saw it began from how human beings saw animals fight. To me, the behaviors of civilization are similar to animals. The phases that human beings go right now, I would say it's like a cobra, economics. Cobra economics. What does that mean? That means intense and fast. You know why? Because people are scared. And this is why, at least when you realize God is here, you relax, and then so somehow I woke up from self-worship, and I woke up from worshiping others. I woke up from worshiping others very early on because I had a self that wanted to be better than others. So usually when I I'm not a psychologist, or a therapist, but if, there was a friend that was struggling, right, and I looked at that friend, I would be like, man, where's your attention? And based on the type of problem, I would know that the problem is in self-worship, other worship, or world worship. Someone who's depressed is worshiping the world. Someone who is very proud and egotistical and, let's say, arrogant, they're worshiping themselves. Somebody who's a nature lover is worshiping the world. When will you notice the higher ups of the human effort are beyond this? And I'm not talking about all the moderators, because I do acknowledge the reality of the angels. Yet I do not ask an angel for help. I do not ask the prophets for help. I go directly to the system administrator. Ya Allah, advance us. To the greatness worthy of your of your decree. You see, I am not alone, guys. I'm some human being sitting in a car right now and telling you and speaking in the presence of the system administrator. I thought I would be nervous standing in front of, a million people on a stage like in Madison Garden or something like that and giving a Mr. Within talk. Little did I know, right now, it's the feeling that I am standing in the presence of that which knows everything even before I say it. So I am humble, yet I must represent the position that I find myself and my species truly in. That, O Creator of worlds, O Lord of the worlds, O might of the greatness of the world, human beings now stand like that child, how would I say, like imagine being a kid with talent and waiting to be picked. You see, the species is worthy of that which is better for it. And let us begin in the presence of the Almighty, with the call of the Almighty. Who am I? The healthiest thing, the healthiest, technique I found was to constantly remind myself, I am nothing. What? A character, a shape that came here and after 100 years left here, and that's it. So that was nothing really, right? It's not that it's nothing really, it's the divine administration. So I find value in my life, not that I'm a great person. I find value in my life that I am in serving the greatness of the original power of the worlds, of all worlds. That means even if you had a multidimensional perspective, imagine there were infinite worlds, you had infinite time, and you had infinite technology to infinitely go anywhere, and you infinitely went everywhere, and you strolled around infinity, and you came back to that center, and you realized the most advanced intelligence is the intelligence that created all intelligence. So, dear humanity, do not be afraid that when you wake up in the morning to salute the commanding original power, the existential system administrator. Try this out and sincerely do it. And you'll be like, Mr. Within, what are you saying? You want me to, like, when I wake up in the morning in my cool life, to just, before I do anything in the morning, when I wake up, to just raise my hands in the air and be like, in some sense, oh, existential system administrator, thank you. Again, I am at your service. And live your day honorably with the values that are valid to you. It's not about being a good person anymore. It's about what did all those good people leave behind. And what they left behind was in some sense the grandchildren of the chaos and order that fought. That means all the villains and superheroes that fought, supervillains and superheroes that fought, all their grandchildren are entering a new world where it's like, assemble the army of geniuses and let's bring in, and together as a species under the greatest authority in the presence of the Almighty, work with that energy and build. You see, it's all about acknowledging your own limitations. They say, who is a great leader? I don't know why I'm saying leader like that, but like, who's a great leader? And a great leader is a leader that knows their limitations. Why? Because if they don't know their limitations can destroy them. And that's the folly of the life of all those ways we could have lived. But what I have realized is that it's more like I'm at least taking the attitude of, like, it's kind of weird, but it's like a buffalo that knows that the creator beyond the storm has everything under control, and yet the buffalo runs into the storm, right? And the reason we run into the storm is because it's an opportunity. In religion, you're being tested. So all those depressed people were like, yo, man, why am I here? Like, why did we evolve? Why is existence existing? You suddenly realize, yo, what if you didn't create yourself? What if you didn't create all this? Oh, could it be a game? And not just a game with abstract self and self-positioned value, imposed values. I'm saying, like, if I want to take the idea of religion seriously, which I did, and that was my calling, okay, I am not alone. That means it's kind of like if from the beginning of my life, my parents, my brother, and some, let's say, close friends I knew, right, people I knew, now something closer than all, where there's a phrase that says God is closer to you than your jugular vein. That means it's not a form, yet it's everywhere. So it's just that I am not alone. I am accompanied, or I am privileged to be in the presence of the Creator. God is real for me, guys. It's here. It's real. I know this might be surreal, someone saying it, but it's real. And it's not real in the sense of like, oh my God, is it a form I gotta worship? No. If you have wandered beyond self, if you have wandered beyond others, if you have wandered beyond the world, you are in the same place where every being of faith is. You see, to me, the religion, which the culture paints it as this like nuisance. Oh my God, like the power of God is so beyond. It's like the original is so greater in quality than the artificial, that when the artificial tries to tries to tell truth, the original is there. So it's kind of like, how do you manage being all these levels to like a being, to the human being, and at the same time being in the presence of that which is the original mover of being. So the way it would be is, for me, it was like, okay, simplify. That's the point of letting go. So if you're someone who's suffering, Buddha even said this, even though I'm not Buddhist, I'm Muslim, but I will tell you this. Buddha said that the suffering comes from desire, and the solution to desire is to let go. Religion, for example, or the way I experienced Islam, it's like you let go of your desires because you've just noticed what's in the room. The fear of God, I experienced that. People are like, yo, Mr. Within, you're saying something that I think is really not a cool thing to say. And I'll say it surpasses being cool, bro. It's about there being the presence of an ultimate intelligence this whole time. That means it's like, do you want yourself to give you the solution to a problem in the world? Do you want others to give you a solution to a problem in the world? Or do you want that which created the world to just take you to the next phase? Have honor, have faith. God is the only thing that was here before creation. It's an incredible life. I'm not asking you to be a robot. I'm asking you to sincerely wonder if this system has an existential system administrator, and then acknowledge it every moment. Trust me, it's way better than like trying to follow a practice and then get to something. You got to be real when it comes to your life. Thank you for listening. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. In the name of the most benevolent and the most merciful, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. All that it exists in anywhere, as if its original coding knows the coder. They tell me what is a power source greater than nuclear, and I would say God. Because it's the power of how the world happens. You know, when I was younger, I thought, is it luck? Is it like being lucky, unlucky? Then I thought, is it karma? You know? And then I was like, no. It's acknowledging what's here. La ilaha illallah. There is no God but God. That means the one and only. That means in this riddle of manifestation, you're not looking for a replacement that's temporary. You are wondering of that power beyond the power that is being all phenomena now. And dear listener, that is our Creator. That which all form bows to, all form moves in accordance to. You are enlisted in the presence of the one and only, the God that wears the world like a crown beyond form. And when this world returns to the Creator, when the created world returns to the Creator, and when the existential system administrator is fully notified of all the system updates, I smile knowing that I was not just a name in the history books, that I was in the presence of the author of all. La ilaha illallah.